All right. Thursday is shaping up to be a severe weather setup across the Missouri, Illinois, and Ohio Valley. We do have a slight risk with a few tornadoes on the table. There is a damaging wind threat. Also, a large hail threat is possible. So let's get into what is causing this risk. Here's the big picture. A strong shortwave trough is ejecting out of the plains into the Midwest. And as that happens, what I think could happen is a 100+ knot level jet streak will overspread the region. And that's going to deepest a surface low over the eastern plains. It's possibly going to track towards the Great Lakes, which something could look out for because, yeah. But the GFS, which is a European model, is only showing speeds up to 73 knots in up 500 millibars into the atmosphere. Now I think that it could greatly exceed this. I think it could get up to 100, which will help storms, mature a lot faster as they grow into the atmosphere. As the moisture returns, it will be pretty moderate, but sufficient dew points in the mid to upper 50s. Will move into spots, could be in the upper 60s. As we go through the day tomorrow, we can see a big tongue, sounds weird, but tongue of moisture ejecting into the Ohio Valley. As we know, moisture does help thunderstorms develop and, grow. So that's something to look out for. Our temperatures are also in the 60s, which is not great because our dew point is also in the 60s, which means if our dew point right here is 62 and our temperature is 64, the cloud base will be 3,000 feet above the ground, which means the clouds will be very, very low to the ground, which could increase or decrease chances of tornadoes. We'll have to see. But that is something to notice. Now going into tomorrow, mid-level cooling ahead of the trough steepens lapse rates, and that's going to allow the instability to build around 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram of mean lunar CAPE. Now, if you don't know what mean lunar CAPE is, essentially it is basically just fuel for thunderstorms. So think of you putting gas in your car. That is basically what CAPE is for thunderstorms. It's basically just filling it up with fuel to help it grow and produce large hail, winds, and tornadoes. This will happen by early afternoon, so that is something to look out for going into tomorrow. This is where it gets pretty interesting. Bulk shear over 55 knots is going to be in place. In some place, it could be 90. That strongly favors organized supercells. That's something very concerning to look out for because 90 knots of wind shear, this is 0 to 6 kilometers in the atmosphere, that could strongly favor supercells growing quickly. So that is something to look out for. Low level wind shear is also in perspective. 0 to 1 kilometer bulk shear over 25 knots near the warm front we have in place is in effect. That means pretty much any storm that can remain by itself and discrete could rotate strongly enough to produce tornadoes. This is something honestly very concerning and we should look out for because if you don't know, wind shear helps storms rotate. And we do have very heightened wind shear on this day into the atmosphere. So we'll have to see how this plays out. This is not an exact forecast. We're still a day out. This is just what the models are saying. But just let's go ahead and get into the timing for tomorrow. Like what time these storms are going to develop and all that. Large hail could be a hazard today, along with damaging winds as storms converge. Also, a few tornadoes are definitely possible, especially near the warm front. This isn't a high-end outbreak setup, but the shear is strong, and sometimes that's really all you need for tornadoes. If you're in eastern Missouri, western Illinois, or the lower Ohio Valley, stay weather aware into the early evening of Thursday. Have your warnings enabled, and I will try and update you as soon as new data comes out. So, see you guys tomorrow.